Continuing with micro-sociological analysis, we move on to Edmund Husserl, and we talk about phenomenology. So in Europe, phenomenology began as a project of a German philosopher named Husserl. Alfred Schutz, who is very prominent in this area, took his concepts and converted them into interactionist analysis. And that's what he did later on, let's say, in USA. So all that, Turner explained 4 features of his work relevant to phenomenology as number 1, the basic philosophical dilemma. Second was the properties of consciousness. Third was the critique of naturalistic empiricism. Fourth was the philosophical alternative to social science. So with regard to basic dilemma, we see, let's say, 3 questions. For example, what is real? Real in the, let's say, world. What is this real phenomenon? Phenomenon or plural could be phenomenon. So what actually exists in this world? Okay. And how is it possible to know what exists? So what is this reality? And does it really exist in the world? And how do we know that it does exist? So Husserl reasoned humans know about the world only through their senses. They can know only through their personal experiences. If they experience it, then perhaps that reality is there, something is real. So for experience, he said that it can be done only through the, let's say, operation of the human senses. And that is through the mental consciousness. Now, it creates some kind of awareness amongst the people. And that is how people become aware of others. They become aware of their norms, their values, and other physical objects, let's say, around them. So this experiencing of the reality is registered on one's conscious awareness. So that is part of this experience. So there may not be any direct contact with the reality, but that experience is only through the mind, through the person's mind. Even if a person is in touch, whatever is that touching experience to the person, that becomes let's say, part of the individual's awareness through his mind. So we see that a person has to understand this process. Now, what is this process? It is not simply that it is there. It might have to go through certain stages, have to go through certain steps. So how this process of consciousness operate? This is one question. And then second is how it influences the human affairs, let's say the activities of the human beings, their interaction patterns, and then outcome of those interaction patterns. How experience creates a sense of external reality. So reality is outside the individual who's experiencing that reality. So how they experience that, and this becomes a central concern of the area of this phenomenology. So we see that second point, he moves on to properties of consciousness. So after this dilemma, he moves on to properties of consciousness. So we see that humans operate in a taken for granted world that permeates their mental life. So world is there. They take it for granted. Okay. So humans try to experience that. They try to make a sense of that, of the world having material as well as non-material objects. So two conceptions of the world. The one was this word is taken for granted, that it is there, it's a reality. Then second is the humans can experience this word or this reality. So I repeat that people experience all this reality, all what is existing around them through their own consciousness. Now, whatever they experience and whatever the conclusion they reach, that conclusion might be correct or incorrect. That's a different story. So we see that how to ascertain what is real. Now, we see that whatever somebody experienced and whatever the way it was interpreted, it might be done in a particular framework, in a particular context in which the person was raised, groomed, and in the framework which the person uses. If he or she uses a particular framework, then perhaps it has its own bias. So we see that that bias comes, and that bias was more, in his opinion, let's say, prevalent or seen in the natural sciences. And the third one, the critique of naturalistic empiricism. So again, naturalistic empiricism is more of a positivistic approach. That's the scientific approach. It assumes that the world exists over there. It is external to human senses. They don't have to experience it. They see over there and they study it. So they can study it through their senses, and Husserl criticized this kind of approach and saying that how can science measure external world objectively, and it brings all kinds of biases. The fourth one was the solution, philosophical alternative to social science. And here the search for the essence of consciousness, that is, what is the process to study the events, how to experience them. So we see that he is talking about suspension of your natural attitude. Leave your biases behind, come with the pure mind. Whether it's possible or not, that's a different story. So we see that there is no use of structured measuring of instruments as it is used in the physical sciences, as we see even in the quantitative approach of the social sciences. So there can be many limitations related to Husserl's doctrine. His ideas definitely set a new line of thought which became the basis of modern phenomenology.